And we're live. I said it like that because the countdown, it says three, two, one, and the one seemed to be like 5 seconds. But anyway, here we are. And I have a special guest, Michelle, with me today. And in fact, I'll let you introduce yourself, Michelle, and also the fact that you reached out to me and why. And then we'll just dive in and have an intuitive chat.
All right. Yeah, my name's Michelle. I've been listening to your podcast for the last year or so, maybe year and a half, almost every morning as I
Mhm.
would drive to work. Realized at one point within the last few years that I really needed some support with my whole eating, relationship with body, all of that stuff. And I looked at a lot of podcasts and I listened to a lot of people and I read books and a lot of resources, but your podcast in particular just really resonated for me. And it was the one that really pushed me through to being where I am today. So
Yay.
I had
And that's why you reached out and said to me, I think I have chocolate around my mouth. Sorry, I can literally see it in the corner of my eye in my video. And I'm like, okay, that's typical Victoria, but there we go. Sorry about that. You reached out and said that you have a powerful story to share and you healed fully from the podcast. And
yeah.
so that's why I wanted to bring you on to share your story because not everyone can afford coaching. Not everyone's in a position to be able to get the support they perhaps want and need, and everyone is different. So not everyone can recover without support. I couldn't. So that's why I want you to just share with raw honesty, like how you did it from following the advice on my podcast. So if we go back to before you found the podcast, like when you first knew you had an issue with food and body, when did that
Hmm.
start for you? At what age?
The first time that I remember being self-conscious about my body and questioning if it was okay to be the way that I am was when I was pretty young, probably, ooh, I don't even know, like 8, 9, 10. And it was just like I had finished watching one of my siblings run a race, and my grandma took a picture of us all together. And
Mm.
I didn't run the race. And I saw that picture later when it printed out, and I noticed how my legs looked in shorts. And I thought, oh, look at all these people who are running. I'm the lazy one sitting on the side. And then I started to connect with what I saw. And that's like the first earliest memory I have of,
Yeah.
trying to figure out why I didn't like my body.
But it was interesting that already your inner dialogue was just because you didn't run the race and you were lazy. So that's obviously come
Hmm.
from somewhere before
Hmm.
event, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Then what did you
and
do then from that point when you started to question, like, wait, maybe I'm not okay. Maybe I need to change.
yeah, that I think in those early preteen years, I started kind of just getting into the habit of body checking, basically. Like I would look at myself in reflections as I walked down the hallway, even just the reflection off of a pane of glass or something. It wasn't even a mirror, but just that kind of just like checking, am I okay? Do I look
Mm,
okay? Do I look embarrassing? Like I was always
mm.
like preemptively embarrassed about just like looking embarrassing. It
Yeah.
was just this kind of, yeah, and then it just turned into a habit and then grew from there.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I remember anything that was reflective. It didn't have to even be glass. I'm sure you had the same. Could be anything that was reflective. And I think when we do it, well, I don't think I know. When we're doing it, we're either seeking reassurance that we're okay, like we're checking for fatness or ugliness or whatever it is that we're checking for consciously or unconsciously, or and we're doing it just to, I guess it's another form of making sure we're okay. And if we're not okay, then how can we adjust ourselves or do something to make sure we are acceptable? And then if you find a mirror that makes you look okay or acceptable in your eyes, it's the best mirror in the world. Then you find another mirror with different lighting and you look completely different. And it just
Yeah.
becomes an obsession. And then it's obviously linked to what you're doing with food. So when did you start to fuck about with your food?
I remember the first time I started to like count calories and become very calorie conscious was middle school,
Yeah.
which I think, unfortunately, I think that's very common. That's the age
Yeah.
when, all the girls start, or just people in general start noticing your body changes, and then we learn about calories in health class, and
Oh my
I'm
God,
not
did
that
you
old, but
in
like
school? Did you learn about calories and health?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I
God.
think that the education of that kind of stuff has changed over the last decade or two, but middle school, it's well, 20 years ago for me now. So it's like back then, it was definitely the education of it was very fat, bad, like low calorie, better, just the
Yeah.
classic.
Wow. I'm older
So
than you, so I'm 38. So you're how old are you, if you don't
I'm
mind sharing?
32.
32. Thank God we didn't, if unless I'm not remembering correctly, we didn't have any calorie stuff in food. But of course, it was always this is the good option, this is the bad option. And the bad option means you're lazy and
Hmm.
not caring about your health, which of course isn't true. So you started counting calories, and did you
Hmm.
learn that from school or did you learn that from someplace else?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can link it to a certain source, but the concept of calorie counting was everywhere. It was on
Yeah,
TV. It was like what people talked about. It was just a thing. It was, and I
yeah,
didn't think, never did I think that would be like something that would be a detriment to my life because it was like it's like had this concept pretty early on of, okay, I want to be like a good person, right? I want to get good grades, I want to be healthy, I want to blah blah blah. And so that was just part of it. It's like you
yeah.
study and you count your calories and you eat well and you exercise and don't be lazy, all just those things.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we think being good, not being good, being good is doing what society tells us to do. But most importantly, that word health. Health is so wrapped up in weight loss and fat phobia, isn't it? Even when I used to say, and I half believed myself when I would say, yeah, I'm just doing it to be healthy. But
Hmm.
if I asked myself back then, okay, Victoria, if you're genuinely doing this, aka counting calories, in order to be healthy, would you gain weight if that was better for your health? And the answer would be hell no.
Hmm.
So it wasn't about my health, it was about losing weight, and the pretty label on it was health.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the concept that ever gaining weight, particularly, on your body, could ever be a good thing was just like not even something I knew existed because that was never taught. Like it
Yes.
was
Yeah.
always taught losing weight healthier, gaining weight unhealthier. There was never, oh, but sometimes gaining weight can actually be healthier for you and improve your health. And I'm actually have some resentment for the fact that was never taught,
Yeah.
that I
Oh,
had
me
to
too.
figure that out so late in life,
Yeah.
especially as a woman, to not be taught that like the importance of body fat is
Especially during
crazy.
puberty. So my anorexia started as I was going into puberty around the age of 11 because I was early in comparison. Like I started puberty earlier. So the fact that we're not taught that adipose tissue, aka fat, will happen to your body because that's what's supposed to happen
Hmm.
when you go from a girl to a woman, if you want to label it that dramatically. It's always shown as something bad and something we can control, which is interesting. So I'm assuming you then did quote unquote control your weight for a certain period of time. But tell me about what happened after that. So you were body checking all the time from
Hmm.
that photo ignited, am I okay? You started counting calories. What happened next?
Just to explain a little bit, I have never had like a diagnosed eating disorder, and I never like got to any extreme point where, which is part of actually why I wanted to talk, is I feel like my story is so common because
Yeah,
the fact that it never got quote unquote like that bad allowed me to just keep on doing it and to convince myself that I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's just, oh, you're not like anorexic, so like you're just fine. The fact that you're eating less and like whatever. And yeah, so when I was in like high school and stuff, the body checking and body anxiety got really bad. I had this thing where I had a really big fear of having fat on my stomach in particular, and I would suck in my stomach all day long, like to the point where my like stomach would be sore, and then I'd be happy about that because I'm like, oh, I got more exercise because I was using my stomach muscles to suck in my stomach all day. And it's a little almost embarrassing for me to share that. I know this is a safe place, but that's just a really personal thing that I never thought I'd ever tell anybody because I knew that it was weird. Like I knew that it was not normal. It was like a shameful secret that like, oh, I'm not really this thin, but if I suck it up and sit like this, then I'll look thinner and people will think that I'm this thin. And
yeah.
the
Thank you.
ironic thing is that oh, sorry.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I naturally was already thin, like just genetically at that
Mm,
age, I was a thin person. I didn't have anything to hide. Not that I would have anything to hide, but it just like,
yeah.
but I just built it up in my head that if anybody saw any fat on my stomach, it would cause me to feel shame. Or if I felt that anybody saw any fat on my stomach, I would feel shame. So shame, the feeling of shame was really deep with that.
Mm.
And I don't really know why. I don't know quite how that manifested, but Um,
The
yeah.
society we live in, maybe something to do with your parents, is it's mirrored back to us everywhere, isn't it? And I'm so
Hmm.
grateful you're here sharing your story, Michelle, because like you said, so many people say, "Oh, I'm not that bad," or "I watched your coaching call on the group and I feel in comparison I shouldn't really be here because
Hmm.
you've been hospitalized and I haven't. I've just been yo-yo dieting." And I'm like, look, take the word just yo-yo dieting out of that, because if your relationship with food and your body is negatively affecting your life, you are quote unquote sick enough to get help, to be here,
Hmm.
to actually recover from this, because sadly, because society is so fucked up, someone who has disordered eating over a eating disorder, and the words are different only because of the severity of what someone's
Hmm.
diagnosed you as. It doesn't mean it is less or more severe, because it's an internal experience anyway, not what someone diagnoses you as. It's because society normalizes that shit, like you
Yeah,
said.
100%. It's like everybody diets. It's not, it was such a thing. It's just, oh, women diet, women eat salads. That's what
Yeah,
women do. Women eat salads, men eat steaks. It's just like,
yes.
so if you're a woman just eating salads all the time, you're just being responsible. It's just like you're just being normal.
Then you're being a good girl and a responsible woman if you're
Yeah.
doing it. And if you're not, then you're being a rebel and all the other things that come with that. Rebel, in my opinion, is linked to a woman like being in her power and that not being okay. And then it's linked to
Hmm.
sexuality and then the power of that. And it goes on and on. So you started counting calories, you were restricting.
Hmm.
When, how long did this last? And then what was the point where you were like, you know what? I'm done with this shit.
Hmm. Yeah, when I was in my early adulthood, like early 20s, that's when it really started to ramp up a little bit. That's
Mhm.
when I started to play around with different strategies of eating less, basically, because you've talked about the genetics behind like anorexia. I think if I had those genetics, it would have gone way worse than it did, but I
Yes.
obviously don't because I tried all these strategies.
Thank God you
The yeah,
don't.
I know,
God,
right?
you don't.
Oh, I'm so grateful for that. That I'm lucky that it didn't go the way that my brain wanted it to go,
Yes, yeah.
you know? So I think one of the strategies that I used for a few years that really messed me up for a while was I did intermittent fasting
Mm,
because and it was hard because it was like that one was one where if you research it, there's all this, oh, it's so good for you, oh, this is like a cool way to do it, and so I would have this rule where okay, I eat in the morning and then I eat at night, but nowhere in between.
mm,
And I was working two jobs, so a lot of times those were 12, 14-hour days where I'm working and I just wasn't eating at all the whole day. And it really created this thing where eating became this big reward, which I
yeah,
think I already had a little bit of that. Oh, like sitting down and eating is the reward after you do hard work. And
yeah.
so when it was like, okay, you're not going to eat all day, then you finally get home. It's
Mm,
finally that eating window. And by then you're hungry. And then it was like eating every bite felt it was like I'm eating my last meal because it's then you're going to restrict again the next day and not eat for that big window. And so
yeah,
it really created like a complex about
yeah.
food.
And it
Um,
puts food on an even higher pedestal because you deprived yourself all day and then you're thinking about it even more and you can't wait for that window when you're allowing yourself to eat.
mhm,
And I just want to say something about intermittent fasting because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor,
mhm,
blah, blah, blah. However, in all these studies, you're right, the research is it's so good for you because your cells regenerate and your cells get rid of all the cells that aren't going to be good for you and blah, blah, blah. Victoria's take on this is the body's smart, right? Smarter than these scientific experiments and people who try to understand the body and the brain and never will because it's so wise and complex.
mhm,
The body's also very adaptable. So if you do intermittent fast, the body thinks that you haven't got food available because otherwise, why would you not be eating? And
mhm,
so an effect on that might be your body just using everything up and like getting rid of cells that it doesn't need, which I think it does anyway because the body's smart. And they're also forgetting, and this isn't a Victoria thing, this I've read this in research somewhere, for women especially, they don't talk about this. Intermittent fasting is very dangerous because the window of not eating should be a lot smaller for women because of
mm,
the way our hormones work in comparison to men. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but intermittent fasting should not be done anyway, in my opinion, if you want to live in food freedom. But people are forgetting to actually share the real evidence that how this affects women. So it's not it's not this incredible thing that makes your longevity extend and all of that. In fact, it's probably the quickest way to give yourself an eating disorder and an obsession with food, as you discovered.
Absolutely. And I think that something I've heard you talk about a lot is just that concept of I lost my train of thought.
I do that
Um,
all the time. It
I
could,
do. I know. I hate that. It's always when it's something important too.
yeah. Was
Um,
talking about longevity, intermittent fasting, women's hormones. People aren't sharing the part that it's dangerous for women. The body's smart.
yeah. Yeah. It just, I don't know. The concept about it leading to eating disorders and leading to, or just disordered thinking about food. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'll let you pick it up.
If it comes back, just randomly splurt it out.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
we'll know what you're talking about. Yeah, so that becomes an obsession. So that's what you were doing. You started fucking around with different modalities of how to control your food. First, it was calorie counting, then it was intermittent fasting. Did it go into something else? What happened after that?
That was basically the end of it. It got to a point where I realized just a handful of years ago that, okay, I can't do this forever. I need to eat. I took a full-time job and then just my job situation changed. It was a little more demanding. And I was like, okay, I can't not eat at all.
Mm,
I proved to myself it wasn't sustainable. But the concept of just eating normally, quote unquote, like that just wasn't a thing. It was like I always had to have a system. It's okay, so
yeah,
what's
yeah,
the new system?
yeah,
Always has to be a rule. There always has to be a system. So the new system was okay, now I'm allowed to eat in the day, but it has to be salads. It has to be a salad. And I don't even know why. I do know why. It's because that
yeah,
was always that thing of just that's a safe food. Vegetables are safe because they're low calorie and high fiber and they'll fill you up, supposedly, which,
yes.
they don't. But
It's
not when
so
it's out of balance.
interesting. Yeah, what you said that because so many people will relate to this, especially the past version of me. Even though you were transitioning from one thing to the other, so counting calories, intermittent fasting, it was shifting, but they all you couldn't just be at peace with food and just eat to your hunger. You had to have a rule or a guide or something to do or something to follow or at least a structure. That's so common because that's just showing us that we think we can't trust ourselves at all. So we have to be doing something outside of us in order to feel safe enough that we're not going to go off the rails and let ourselves go and and eat forever and then die alone. Like we're told that we will if we don't
100%.
do anything.
And I
Yeah.
think the thing that I realized a lot through listening to your material is that I absolutely did not have a trust in my body at all.
Yeah.
And changing the mindset to working as a team, like my mind and my body as a team, as opposed to like because I honestly, for the longest time, it was just your body's cues are against you. It's, oh, it
Yeah.
wants you to eat cake. Oh, it's trying to sabotage you. As if your body's trying to ruin your life. It's trying to sabotage you. And the brain has to come in and fight off your natural sense of what you want
Desires.
to eat and desires. And like when you want to rest or exercise or whatever, it's like your body's always against you. Oh, you want to rest? Oh, your body's trying to sabotage you and be lazy and get fat. And oh, okay, your mind has to take over and force yourself to exercise right now. Even though, yeah, I had to have a system in place. And so for me, it was eating salads and I started to hate them because when you
Of
eat them
course
every
you did.
day, and I think it was around that time that I started listening to your podcast regularly, and I just resonated so much with every single episode. I was like, okay, there's something to this,
This
and
girl gets it.
yeah, there's something to this, and I'm not alone, and I'm not
Mm.
crazy, and I think a big part of it was in order to start recovering, I had to admit to myself that I actually had a problem,
Yes.
which
Just
was hard.
repeat that for those in the back.
Okay. I could not start recovering until I admitted to myself that I had a problem that actually I needed to recover from. I had to show myself that I actually have something to recover from. And even using the term recovery for me was not something that I used very easily at first because I
Mm.
didn't feel like I was a part of the bubble because I didn't have anorexia or bulimia or like crazy, I shouldn't say crazy. I meant like extreme. Like I didn't have anything that
Yeah.
like stood out, right?
Yeah.
I was just somebody who's like eating 3 times a day and like going to work. So like why would I have a problem? And so realizing that I did have an issue, and the more I started to dive into it, the more layers and layers were unraveled, and I realized it was actually pretty deep.
Yes.
and it was hard and it was an emotional thing to start to trust my body again, basically. There's a lot of stuff there.
How did you do that? So if someone's listening and they're like, "Oh my God,
Mhm.
yes, I am in the same boat as you, Michelle. I'm so glad you're sharing your story."
Mhm.
How do I trust my body when I don't trust her at all? What did you start to do?
I started to do a lot of the things that you've talked about. So I started by going with the intuitive eating stuff first, which I know that's what I started. I started by looking into that concept, and then I started to realize that, oh, there's all these different ways to think about how you're satisfied when you eat a meal. Because when you're eating based on rules and systems, you're not sensing everything you're getting from the food. You're
No.
thinking about the food. You're not
Yes.
feeling what you're eating the same way. And so for me, the first thing was looking into those concepts of I need to like, what flavors am I tasting? And oh, how does that feel in my body? How do I feel after I ate that? And so just connecting with my body was like the first thing is can I even connect with my body when I'm eating? Which was
Yeah.
hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to understand when I was full. I was like, what is being full? Where is that line? And just, yeah, building that sense, I feel like.
You approached it, what I'm hearing you say is you approached it with curiosity and gentleness. The way that you're speaking, it sounds like it wasn't something you were like, I have to do this or I need to know this. It's just, okay,
Mhm.
let me just ask questions and get curious and see if I can connect. And I'm assuming you did and you
Yeah,
could.
it definitely, I feel like the way that I did it, and this might not work for everybody, I was a lot less of a diving in the deep end. I was more like a put your feet in first. How does this feel? Okay, go a little further. And then once you felt safe enough, then I plunged in a little more to get
Yeah.
used to it. But I feel like it was a lot of tiptoeing in and just, how does this feel? How does this feel? And
I think that's worth saying because especially if you didn't have that one-to-one support, for someone to keep reassuring you if you did dive in, you
Mhm.
dive, in my opinion, you're like, fuck, why did I do that? Oh my God, I want to go back. But when you've got someone being like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, this is so normal. So because you were doing it on your own,
Mhm.
it's worth saying, everyone listening to this, Michelle listened to my content and took action. I'm not, this isn't to blame or call anyone out at all. It's to inspire people and to encourage them that everything you need is in the words I speak on my podcast. You have to listen to most of them and you'll see me grow from the start, from the moment I started my podcast. I've grown and evolved so much, but especially the last couple of years, if you do everything I share, you can fully recover, but you have to take the action and you took the action. So was there a point, Michelle, where so you started connecting to your body? I don't want to jump too
Mhm.
far ahead, but you started connecting to your body. What happened next? And was there a point where you started questioning, like, oh no, this isn't right? Or like, when did the doubt creep in? Because I'm sure there
Oh
was a
yeah.
lot of that
I don't
happened
think
there.
there's any way to do it without having some of
No.
that. Yeah, so the bumps in the road for me definitely came more to the kind of body dysmorphia stuff. I've never been officially diagnosed with body dysmorphia, but I know from my experience that what I see in the mirror is it's a confusing thing. It's not a
Yeah.
simple thing.
Yeah.
And so I do recognize that I have thin privilege. My natural body type is a little smaller. So I did gain weight, which was very uncomfortable for me, but I know that it was easier for me than it might be for some people just due to my genetics.
Yeah.
But it was hard. I went up several sizes, and so that was the hardest part for sure. Was the hardest part was when I would put on a pair of pants and then it didn't fit me anymore. That's a terrifying thing when you have these challenges. I'm sure everybody who's listening knows exactly what I'm talking about. And so there was one point where I was like getting dressed for a concert and I went to go put on my concert pants. They didn't fit because I don't wear those very often. That's something I only
Yeah.
wear a couple times a year. So I didn't notice that they wouldn't fit anymore. And I'm not weighing myself or any of that. I had no idea that they wouldn't fit. And so that kind of surprised me. And that gave me that panic feeling of, oh no, and then the disordered eating brain came in. It was just like, oh, question everything. Have you totally failed? Are you doing everything wrong? Do you regret, the eat now?
Do you regret that you actually take care of yourself now?
I know, yeah. So that was
Yeah.
the biggest meltdown that I had was
Yeah.
definitely,
How did
you
you
know,
navigate that? Because that feeling, I remember it so well.
mhm,
It's like overwhelming feeling of shame and panic, as if
mhm.
it
Panic,
feels like
yeah,
you're literally in an actual dangerous situation, doesn't it?
100%. I think the first thing, well, it wasn't, it was a surprise in that moment, but
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen along the way. The fact that happened at all was not a surprise. So I had a little bit of a steady footing, just knowing
Mm.
that, okay, I knew this would happen. I expected that I would have these moments. And I just reminded myself to recognize, is the level, like, what is the level of emotion that I'm feeling versus the level of the problem that I'm navigating? And okay,
Oh, I
those are
love
totally
that.
misaligned, because it's
Yeah.
okay, my feeling is a 9 out of 10. The problem, the pants not fitting, that's like a 3, 4 out of 10. I could just get a new pair of pants, or
Yeah.
like be creative with what I wear to this concert. It's not a problem. So like
Yes.
recognizing it doesn't make the feeling go away,
No.
but recognizing that allowed me to wait it out, basically.
Mm.
And
And did you, I assume so, because you've listened to my podcast, did you create space to feel the feeling?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I let myself feel it. I'm pretty sure I cried. I'm pretty sure my husband was around and I let him give me a big hug and kind of, you build
Mm.
me up a little bit. So I'm lucky that I have that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And that was the worst. I've never had it that bad since. It's like,
Yeah.
I, I might at some point again. I know what it is now. It's like I can pinpoint, okay, that's that thing where it's just this emotion that happens,
Yes. And
but
you're
it
not
doesn't
the
mean
only,
anything. I
that's
don't need to give,
exactly
yeah.
it. You don't need to give it a meaning. And I don't think that will happen again because you heal at the root. So, yeah, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have stuff that gets triggered that comes up from our past, and it may be around body image. And every time something comes up, it's an opportunity to heal that. But from my experience of working with so many, and also my own experience, when you've worked through and felt that overwhelming feeling of shame around your body image, and you've allowed space for that, doesn't come back because you've healed that deep rooted like panic feeling by just being with yourself and not actually rejecting yourself, and like you said, bringing your prefrontal cortex back online and being like, is this actually a problem? Am I in danger right now, or does it just feel
Hmm.
like the end of the world? And then bringing everything you've learned to that situation and then choosing freedom anyway. Is that something
Hmm.
you did? So what did you do in that moment when you felt it? Did you tell yourself a new story? Did you say what I say, what would freedom do? What did you do after the feeling was felt?
That's a good question. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I did actually doubt a little bit for a moment. Oh, would life be easier if I just dieted again?
Yeah.
Would life be easier if I just stayed in that like smaller size? So I played around with that in my head and realized, no, the answer's no. The answer's no. It was not, it would not be easier if I restricted my food every single day and forced myself to be unnaturally small just so that I wouldn't occasionally have a moment of having this emotion. I'd rather just deal with this emotion right now
Yeah.
because it's fleeting,
That's
but
really big
yeah.
what you've shared, because I did that, you'll know from listening to my podcast. I allowed myself to go there because when you allow yourself to be like, okay, then let's quote unquote do something about this. What does that look like? Restricting, counting calories, denying yourself. Is that actually what you want? We've worked so hard to move away from that. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the options we have right now?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just recognizing that, okay, what is the actual problem? The problem is just navigating this tough emotion.
Yes.
I
And
can
it
do that. I
yes.
can be tough. It's going to be unpleasant, hence why it's a tough emotion but it's okay. I can handle that.
Yeah.
So
What
I
else
think,
have you
yeah,
gained as well as weight during this process?
energy,
Yeah.
confidence in, how do I describe it? So it's not until, it's so funny. It's like I was so nervous about gaining weight because of I'm nervous about people noticing or me being unhappy with it or whatever. But when I actually gain weight, because I'm connected to my body now, I'm more confident about my body now than I was when it was thin.
Yeah.
Which
Same.
is aesthetically, I still, part of me still admires the me when I was thin a little bit, to be honest about that. But I'm not like envious of it or anything. Like, no, because like I'm connected to myself now. Like this is real. This is me right now, and this fat is me, and this muscle is me, and this is all me. And so like I feel like I walk more confidently. Like I don't hide myself. I think everybody knows those little tricks where you hide yourself and hide your stomach and you hide your this
Yeah,
and
a
just,
certain way and stand a
yeah.
certain way and
Oh
check a
yeah.
certain way.
And you're always like conscious about, how do I look at this angle? How are people looking at me from that angle? And so that's just not in my brain as I walk through the world. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that was possible, that I could
Mm.
actually, And it's this thing where it's not like I love how I look all the time. And
Mm.
I think that was something that was really interesting to experience. I remember the first time I looked in the mirror when I was getting dressed in the morning, and I didn't like how I looked. I was just like, I'm not a fan of how I'm looking right now. And I didn't have an emotional reaction. It like blew my mind. I was like, that's possible? Like you can not aesthetically be like thrilled with how you look in the moment, but have it not actually emotionally affect you, and then you could just go about your day. I didn't even know that was possible. So
That's
that
what I'm
it's
talking about. Yes, that's freedom, that's neutrality, that's peace, that's real. Because there will be times where you probably do like the way you look and you're like, hey, I look really cute today, I look hot today. And there will be times where you've just explained, like, and this is what I experienced too. Not a fan of what I look like today, like, especially for me having given birth recently, never gone on a sunbed since I've been pregnant. Like, I'm pale because I'm naturally pale and I'm embracing that. It's like, interesting. I have lots more cellulite than I ever realized I ever had. Interesting. And
Mhm.
it's just, there's nothing, there's no panic, there's no shame, there's just, would be nice if I had like slim brown tone legs again. I don't. Oh, let me get on with my life.
Yeah, it's not affecting
Mm,
your day. It's like getting dressed in the morning is so easy now.
yeah,
It seems like a little thing, but for me, that was a big struggle when I had all these complexes about how I looked and my body. Getting dressed was a stressful thing every day. Sometimes it
yeah.
would take an hour, 30 minutes, and I'd try on half the closet and then end up just like hating myself and feeling all these
Mm,
feelings. And to be able to just put on jeans, put on a shirt, put on shoes, okay, I'm going to work. Like, oh, it can be
freedom.
simple because I'm not
Yeah.
overthinking it and I don't, it's not a big part of my day. Like, I'm not worried about how everybody's going to judge me from every angle of my body as I go throughout the day. So I don't have to look in the mirror and judge how I
Mm,
look from every angle. How do I look from the back? How do I look from the side? Is this outfit going to make anything stand out or, you
yeah.
know?
How
Oh,
did you get there? I know that's such a big question because I personally know it's not always just one thing. It's like loads of little things on the journey as you grow. For someone wanting what you have, what advice, tips, tricks, for lack of better words, would you say to someone who wants what you have, who was where you once were?
ooh, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Um, it's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer to that one. I think you need to give me a more simple question.
Yeah, maybe I can start you off because from what I'm hearing you say,
Okay.
this is big and this might be the only thing, which is huge. What I'm hearing you say is that example you gave where you felt that overwhelm of shame when
Hmm.
you tried your pants on and they were too tight. You felt the emotion, you sat with it, and you said to yourself, it's okay, I can feel this emotion and then move on. Is it just doing that over and over again and then choosing to focus on something else? There's something you did probably without
Hmm.
noticing you did it. You felt something, but then you must have done, if you had allowed yourself to go back to the same old thoughts, you wouldn't have progressed.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. The answer is yes, a lot of little moments of that over and over.
Yeah,
A lot of it was, it's like you're starting to do something new when you're starting to recover and you're doing something you probably feel like you've never done before. And so you're naturally scared of it, right? It's, oh, you're gaining weight. Oh, you've never done that before. You never let your body do that before. So it's
yeah,
scary.
yeah,
And I think that you prove to yourself that it works all the time. You know what I mean? As in, you're proving the fear wrong in your day-to-day experience. Oh
yeah,
no, are people going to be like noticing that my hips are bigger or whatever? And then you go through life and you go, and then okay, and then at the end of the day, did anybody?
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
maybe. I don't. It's like, no. Okay, so that fear proved wrong. And it's a lot of like little micro examples of
Mm,
that day to day. Like even today, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna wear my comfy shoes and my whatever pants. Is anybody at work going to notice or care that I didn't wear a stylish outfit today? No, because you know what? I've worn outfits like this 100 times at work and nobody's noticed and nobody cares. And I have a
yeah,
casual workplace, so I'm allowed to do that. But there's not like a dress code or anything. But just as an example of that's something I could so easily overthink. That was a fear that I had, but it's like you
mm,
prove it wrong. Also, like something that you've talked about a lot is when you start eating freely, there is so much fear about that you're just going to balloon up and gain weight forever. That you talked about your fear being almost that you would rather die than gain weight. That clicked with me because I 100%, it was like one of my biggest fears in the whole world because
Yeah.
I just knew I wouldn't be able to handle the shame. It was like the
Yeah.
shame that comes with it, the judgment and the feeling of rejection that I made up in my head. And feeling okay, if I eat freely, I'm just going to gain weight forever. It's like the worst, everything will be out of control and it'll be
Mm.
crazy. Um, and I was able to prove that wrong, that you don't just gain weight forever, like your body just resets. And so I started, I'm also a big chocolate person. So I started eating chocolate a lot. And there are these like giant chocolate peanut butter cup things that I really like, and they're huge and they're delicious. And I would pack 2 of those in my lunch like every day, and sometimes even more. And I would eat as many as I wanted every day. That was one of my big recovery foods of just, okay, that's just something that I just want to eat all the time. And I let myself eat as much as I wanted. And I felt like I was doing something insane. I felt like I'm going to gain so much weight. This is crazy. I'm eating so many calories.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It was like, yeah, I gained some weight, but like nothing crazy happened. Not burned down.
Yes.
Nobody rejected me. Nobody changed how they even thought about me. Nobody even, I think, hardly noticed even that I gained weight. Just it's fine if they did, but I'm just saying it felt like I was doing something crazy extreme, but then I proved it wrong because it's like, no, like nothing bad happened.
That is
So,
gold. Because what I'm hearing you say is you faced your fears over and over again every day. When you faced your fears, you created evidence that you can face your fears, not die, not have a bad day, and actually be like, oh, actually, it's not as bad as I was thinking it would be, over and over again. Now, my question for you is, and this might be hard to answer, when you are faced with the fear, so you're stuck in this disordered eating, it's not what you want anymore. So I assume you decided with your full heart, I am going to get better, I'm going to be free, I'm going to just change this about myself, which I think is key. You need to decide you don't want to
mhm.
stay where you currently were, where you were before. And then how did you, I know, but people, this is a common question. How did you face your fears every day when facing your fears is scary and hard and you have no evidence that you'll be okay because you're facing your biggest fears head on?
Yeah, I think I started to realize what worked for me. So what worked for me, w listening to your podcast regularly helped me because
Mm.
I have that eating disorder brain, and then there's like the me brain. And the eating disorder or disordered eating or whatever, however you want to label it for me, it it was always there. But then I would listen to you, and it was against everything that that part of my
Mm.
brain was saying. And so basically, I was trying to feed the good part of my brain that wanted to recover. I knew I needed to give that part of my mind food. I was like, okay,
Yes.
feed that. That's what I want. So I'm going to feed that with everything that I can. So I tried to almost starve out the disordered eating thoughts because I just overflowed my brain with all the positive body image thoughts and all of the info. Even if I wasn't able to produce all of that positive thought myself,
Yeah.
that's why I was reaching out to your resources and things like that, because it was like
Yes.
that gave it to me. And I that usually set me on the right path for the day,
Yeah.
because it was just like, if I didn't have that in my mind, it would have probably been easier for me to just do the calorie counting thing and the questioning what I eat thing and all that stuff. And so I tried to oversaturate my brain with the positive, supportive messaging. I don't know if that's the answer you were
Oh my
expecting, but
God,
that,
yes. So
yeah.
much good. That works because I love, I don't know if it was pun intended or not, but feeding of you that is the true you, who is free, who wants to be living in freedom, versus starving the part of you that's keep wanting to keep you stuck. That's
Mhm.
exactly how you recover, whatever way you go about it, because whatever we focus on, we get more of. Whatever we look for, we will find. We attract our beliefs, we attract what we believe about ourselves to back to ourselves. So if you're focusing on what you do want and ignoring or dismissing what you don't want, you will always get what you want. This works both ways though. So if people are saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, but focusing on what they don't want, they're going to get more of what they don't want. it's very simple but not easy when you grasp that. Like when people come to me on a consultation call, I'm like, okay, I'm like, my favorite part of this call, tell me what you want to change through coaching. I don't want this. I don't want, I'm like, great. I listen with my whole heart. You've told me
Mm-hmm.
everything you don't want. Now tell me what you do want. And then I don't know what I want
Mm-hmm.
because they're so used to focusing on what they don't want and they get more of what they don't want. So, also, what I see within you, and I'm going to ask you to answer other than me pinpointing it out to you, if you could describe three characteristics that you have and have had to be in these characteristics in order to face the fear and flood yourself with positive recovery stuff, what characteristics would you have to, did you in, and what word am I looking for? What characteristics did you choose to be, for lack of a better way of saying it, in order to do what you did? Does
Mm.
that make sense, that question?
I think it does. Characteristics, what three characteristics did I have to be able to go through this process, basically?
Yes.
Um,
When
I
you
would
were afraid,
say,
because you were afraid, obviously.
yeah, there's definitely, I had to be open, curious, a lot
Yeah.
of like almost like you're discovering something because it's new, it's unfamiliar. I had to be trusting, I think. I had to trust my body and trust what I heard from people who had recovered and trust the process. So there's a lot of just trust and then a lot I would say like independence in a way, like independent thinking, like it's like doing something that is against what I've heard my whole life and against what society says and against blah 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 and against all the research I'd done about health and against all of this other evidence that the disordered eating brain had built into me. So I had to be like independent of that and step back
Mhm.
from that and think
Oh, I
kind
love
of
that.
think for myself.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. And I think this is a question worth asking. I assume you have listened to lots of other recovery podcasts and
A
read books and
handful.
things.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'm not saying only people should only listen to me, but what I
Yeah.
am curious about is when people are listening to recovery content and I'm contradicting what someone else is saying and vice versa, and people are like, well, what do I choose? And obviously, I'm going to be sharing my process is the only thing that fucking works because I've tried everything, but I don't want to make
Mhm.
that person wrong either. What
Mhm.
was your experience with perhaps listening to other things that were contradicting what I was saying? And then how did you choose what was right for you if you had that
Yeah. That's a
experience?
really good question. So it's interesting. I tend to be a little bit of a science-minded person. So when I'm looking to solve a problem, I'm looking for evidence and
Mhm.
I'm looking at what's the leading like research saying or the experts saying. So initially I was looking at a lot of, okay, I'm looking for info from somebody who's a doctor and has all these
Mm,
credentials and all this stuff, which is great, don't get me wrong. But I feel like I landed originally on a lot of stuff that it was, I don't know, it was very dense. And I think the thing that the reason because I was literally like just going through podcasts and just eating disorder recovery or like typing
mhm,
stuff in and listening to all these different ones. And when I landed on yours, it really worked for me because it was just so much based on, I feel like, real, like just experience. Just like, what are you feeling? What are you connecting with? And it just, I was surprised almost that I connected with it so much. Don't take that the wrong way. I was just, every episode I was just like, wow, okay, that all resonated with me. I'm gonna listen to another one. And then I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I'm gonna listen to another one. And it just, I think the biggest thing is that you're one of the only people that I've heard consistently advocate for just eating whatever you want whenever you want.
yeah.
That is something just as people throughout life, we don't hear that ever. If
Mm,
anything, we hear don't do that. Like, hence the always having a system for food.
yeah.
And so it was the first time I was like, oh, I don't have to just find a new system. I can just get systems and
Yeah.
actually just eat without having to overthink, wait, what did I just eat? Why did I eat it? And then what am I going to eat next?
Mhm,
So some of them were like, the stuff like I had read like intuitive eating books and stuff, but they were a little like document what you ate today, a little, and
mm,
that it still lent itself to overthinking. And I
yes.
feel like the thing is letting go of thinking about the food, just like experiencing food, eating it, moving on. Like you don't, your
Absolutely.
brain doesn't need to be that involved. Like
No,
your brain has a place, right? It has a little place and oh, like I'm hungry. Okay, so therefore this sounds good. I'll go eat that. Like your brain is involved in the process, but it doesn't have to overthink it. Like your body
no.
gets to make those decisions about what you eat and when you're ready to eat and when you're done eating and blah blah blah. And that, I think that's the main thing. Is you said that, I think, in almost every episode that I listened to, I was just like, eat whatever you want when you want. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I had to hear that about 100 times
Oh yeah, you
before I
do.
felt ready to actually do it. To
Yes.
be honest, it's not like I just listened to one episode that I was like, I'm gonna recover now. It
Yeah. Because
wasn't quite that simple.
it sounds irresponsible, doesn't it? I remember
Oh
when
yeah.
I decided to, yeah, I was influenced by the coaches I hired. Obviously, that helped me get to this place and content I listened to. But when I truly decided that, you know what? Freedom doesn't come for free. I'm willing to trade freedom for having to work through body image stuff, having to work through weight gain. I'm just so done with trying to eat in moderation and trying to be healthy and eat intuitively, which was another diet to me. I was just
Yes,
fucking
yes.
done. And so I needed to hear myself at the beginning of my recovery over and over again. You have full permission to eat unrestrictedly for the rest of your life. Because so many clinical professionals, sadly, they give that advice for only anorexia recovery at the
Mm,
beginning. And then when your rate restored, you have to bring it back and only have one slice of cheesecake. But what if you want 10 cheesecakes? You can't have that.
mm,
So it perpetuates a cycle of restriction, especially if someone's like having binge eating disorder and they're like, yeah, that's not eating for freedom because you're obviously eating too much because you've got it's so wrong. So I always say the only way to freedom is to eat unrestrictedly and all the holistic stuff, tune into your body, come back home to self-love, do
mm-hmm.
the child work. There's a quote that I wanted to bring in. Come on, Victoria Brain, bring it back. Oh, yeah, here it is. I always say that before diet culture was invented, intuitive eating was just simply called eating.
Yeah,
Easy, simple,
yeah.
straightforward. And that's where the place that you've gotten to, Michelle. And honestly, I'm so grateful you reached out to share your story because it needed to be heard. And I'm so glad that you've shared it here. Is there anything that I've not asked you? And I'll have a think as I ask you this question. Is there anything else I want to ask you? Is there anything I've not asked you that you want to share?
That's a good question. There's something you asked earlier that I think I have a better answer for. At some point, I think you asked what was the point where I realized I needed to make the change. And I remembered one of the biggest things for me that is probably like the moment that I decided, at least, that I was like, okay, I'm doing this, is the moment I decided to take the scale out of the bathroom.
Oh, yes. When you
And
said you
I
didn't weigh yourself, I was like, yes, girl, you're listening to
Yeah,
what I
that
said.
was hard. That
Yeah.
was actually really scary. And so I just want to say, for anybody out there, if you have that scale in the bathroom, if it's there, your brain thinks about it. If it's not there, I don't even know where it is. My husband took it. It was somewhere in the house. I don't even know. I don't care. But I haven't weighed myself in a year and a half or 2 years or something like that. And I used to weigh myself 2, 3 times a day at least. And
Mm.
it's amazing to not know how much you weigh and to not care, because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And it literally doesn't affect your life at all to not know.
No.
And so for anybody else out there who's feeling scared about that, just
Get
try it.
rid.
Get rid of it. Just try it. Just you can feel yourself. You're right here. You don't need to see a number
Mm.
to know where you are and what you are.
I love that. And
So,
that goes against advice from clinical professionals who say time and time again, and people come to me saying this, and that's why they come to me. They say to these patients, they call them patients, you need to get used to weighing yourself because then you just need it to be a number. You need to let go of the emotional attachment to your weight. And my
mm,
argument is give me one good reason why you have to know how much you weigh for the rest of your entire life, ever. Apart from if a doctor needs to give you a prescription on how much medication to take.
yeah.
You don't have to know the answer,
I
the
was
number
gonna say, but the
anyway.
doctor can see it, and you don't have to see it. Like the doctor,
There's
my
no
doctor knows
reason.
how much I weigh. I don't know how much I weigh.
Yeah, there's
I don't
no
need to
other
know.
reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not important information for me.
No, exactly. Is there anything else that I want to ask you, Michelle? What's one last thing you would say to someone who is contemplating deciding? Because I believe it always comes from a decision. When we
Hmm.
say, I'm trying to recover, trying is asking for permission to fail. And I'm not saying that I'm saying it in a direct way, but in a incompassionate, uncompassionate, whichever word it is, incompassionate way.
Hmm.
Because we have learned helplessness. We've tried so many times and we've failed. So we're scared to do it for real because we're scared of failure again. But if someone's literally, okay, I want to do this, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
so scared, what would
Okay.
you say?
I would say if you've heard about recovery and you've seen people recover, you've heard stories, you want it, right? You believe in it. You believe that it can happen. From a place of more empowerment, I think when you go out of your way to do this, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're setting a trend, you're showing other people, you're being an example. And I
Mm,
think for me, that was a big motivating thing is realizing that when I was in my disordered eating stuff, people see that and I was an example to people. And now that I'm doing this, like I can set a positive example to my sisters or to anyone in my life. It's like I can be a positive example. And
yeah.
so even if doing it for yourself isn't enough, do it for people around you who you influence in your
Yes.
life. Be an example, be a good example
That was a
for
big one
others.
for me. If I can't do it for me, I'll do it for the we. It was actually
Mm-hmm.
easier that way. And
Yeah.
one last thing, because I know I can talk forever, but like with wearing shorts with my legs with cellulite on, God forbid I put anyone through the torment of seeing cellulite on my legs. I couldn't at the beginning do it for me, but I was like, you know what? If I can go out there with cellulite legs and shorts and a woman can see me and feel permission, feel like she has permission and more of relaxation to also do the same if her
Mm-hmm.
legs aren't cellulite,
Yeah.
80% of the women in the world aren't. That was easier for me because it took it all away from me, but I was inspiring other people, and that's what I think we're here to do, to just be an example, to learn from each other, to love each
Mm-hmm.
other, to give love, to receive love. And love is always the answer. Let's end it on that.
Yeah. 100%. I love it.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your story. And if people did want to reach out to you, can they? And if so, how? And if not, that's totally fine too.
Yeah, I'm not much of a public person. So
Entirely.
yeah.
Yeah. So if they have
Yeah,
any questions, they can email me and I can maybe forward the questions on to
that would
you.
be great. Yeah.
So email me if you have any questions for Michelle. And listeners, you know how much I love you. YouTube, people who aren't on YouTube, I'm doing a heart emoji thingy with my hands. Michelle, thank you so much again, and I'll see you all next week. Much
Awesome.
love.
Thank you. Bye.
And we're live. I said it like that because the countdown, it says three, two, one, and the one seemed to be like 5 seconds. But anyway, here we are. And I have a special guest, Michelle, with me today. And in fact, I'll let you introduce yourself, Michelle, and also the fact that you reached out to me and why. And then we'll just dive in and have an intuitive chat. Yay. Yay. And that's why you reached out and said to me, I think I have chocolate around my mouth. Sorry, I can literally see it in the corner of my eye in my video. And I'm like, okay, that's typical Victoria, but there we go. Sorry about that. You reached out and said that you have a powerful story to share and you healed fully from the podcast. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on to share your story because not everyone can afford coaching. Not everyone's in a position to be able to get the support they perhaps want and need, and everyone is different. So not everyone can recover without support. I couldn't, but you could. So that's why I want you to just share with raw honesty, like how you did it from following the advice on my podcast. So if we go back to before you found the podcast, like when you first knew you had an issue with food and body, when did that start for you? At what age? Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. But it was interesting that already your inner dialogue was just because you didn't run the race and you were lazy. So that's obviously come from somewhere before the event, obviously. Yeah. Then what did you do then from that point when you started to question, like, wait, maybe I'm not okay, maybe I need to change? Yeah. Yeah, I remember doing that. I remember anything that was reflective. It didn't have to even be glass. I'm sure you had the same. Could be anything that was reflective. And I think when we do it, well, I don't think I know, when we're doing it, we're either seeking reassurance that we're okay, like we're checking for fatness or ugliness or whatever it is that we're checking for consciously or unconsciously, or and we're doing it just to, I guess it's another form of making sure we're okay. And if we're not okay, then how can we adjust ourselves or do something to make sure we are acceptable? And then if you find a mirror that makes you look okay or acceptable in your eyes, it's the best mirror in the world. Then you find another mirror with different lighting and you look completely different. And it just becomes an obsession. And then it's obviously linked to what you're doing with food. So when did you start to fuck about with your food? Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Oh my God, did you in school? Did you learn about calories and health? God, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Wow. I'm older than you, so I'm 38. So you're how old are you, if you don't mind sharing? 32. Thank God we didn't, if unless I'm not remembering correctly, we didn't have any calorie stuff in food. But of course, it was always this is the good option, this is the bad option. And the bad option means you're lazy and not caring about your health, which of course isn't true. So you started counting calories, and did you learn that from school or did you learn that from someplace else? Yeah, 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 I get it. It's interesting that we think being good, not being good, being good is doing what society tells us to do. But most importantly, that word health. Health is so wrapped up in weight loss and fat phobia, isn't it? Even when I used to say, and I half believed myself when I would say, yeah, I'm just doing it to be healthy. But if I asked myself back then, okay, Victoria, if you're genuinely doing this, aka counting calories, in order to be healthy, would you gain weight if that was better for your health? And the answer would be hell no. So it wasn't about my health, it was about losing weight, and the pretty label on it was health. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, oh, me too. Yeah. Especially during puberty. So my anorexia started as I was going into puberty around the age of 11 because I was early in comparison. Like I started puberty earlier. So the fact that we're not taught that adipose tissue, aka fat, will happen to your body because that's what's supposed to happen when you go from a girl to a woman, if you want to label it that dramatically, it's always shown as something bad and something we can control, which is interesting. So I'm assuming you then did quote unquote control your weight for a certain period of time. But tell me about what happened after that. So you were body checking all the time from that photo ignited, am I okay? You started counting calories. What happened next? Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. Mm. Yeah. Mm. The society we live in, maybe something to do with your parents, is mirrored back to us everywhere, isn't it? And I'm so grateful you're here sharing your story, Michelle, because like you said, so many people say, "Oh, I'm not that bad," or "I watched your coaching call on the group and I feel in comparison I shouldn't really be here because they've been hospitalized and I haven't. I've just been yo-yo dieting." And I'm like, "Look, take the word just yo-yo dieting out of that because if your relationship with food and your body is negatively affecting your life, you are quote unquote sick enough to get help to be here to actually recover from this because sadly, because society is so fucked up, someone who has disordered eating over a eating disorder, and the words are different only because of the severity of what someone's diagnosed you as. It doesn't mean it is less or more severe because it's an internal experience anyway, not what someone diagnoses you as. It's because society normalizes that shit, like you said. Yeah, yes. Then you're being a good girl and a responsible woman if you do it. And if you're not, then you're being a rebel and all the other things that come with that. Rebel, in my opinion, is linked to a woman like being in her power and that not being okay. And then it's linked to sexuality and then the power of that. And it goes on and on. So you started counting calories, you were restricting. When, how long did this last? And then what was the point where you were like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Thank God you don't. God you don't. Yes. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And it puts food on an even higher pedestal because you deprived yourself all day and then you're thinking about it even more and you can't wait for that window when you're allowing yourself to eat. And I just want to say something about intermittent fasting because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor and blah, blah, blah. However, in all these studies, you're right, the research is it's so good for you because your cells regenerate and your cells get rid of all the cells that aren't going to be good for you and blah, blah, blah. Victoria's take on this is the body's smart, right? Smarter than these scientific experiments and people who try to understand the body and the brain and never will because it's so wise and complex. The body's also very adaptable. So if you do intermittent fast, the body thinks that you haven't got food available because otherwise, why would you not be eating? And so an effect on that might be your body just using everything up and like getting rid of cells that it doesn't need, which I think it does anyway because the body's smart. And they're also forgetting, and this isn't a Victoria thing, this I've read this in research somewhere, for women especially, they don't talk about this. Intermittent fasting is very dangerous because the window of not eating should be a lot smaller for women because of the way our hormones work in comparison to men. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but intermittent fasting should not be done anyway, in my opinion, if you want to live in food freedom. But people are forgetting to actually share the real evidence that how this affects women. So it's not this incredible thing that makes your longevity extend and all of that. In fact, it's probably the quickest way to give yourself an eating disorder and an obsession with food, as you discovered. I do that all the time. It could, yeah. I was talking about longevity, intermittent fasting, women's hormones. People aren't sharing the part that it's dangerous for women. The body's smart. Mm. If it comes back, just randomly splurt it out. And we'll know what you're talking about. Yeah, so that becomes an obsession. So that's what you were doing. You started fucking around with different modalities of how to control your food. First, it was calorie counting, then it was intermittent fasting. Did it go into something else? What happened after that? Mm, yeah, 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 yes. It's so interesting. Yeah, what you said that because so many people will relate to this, especially the past version of me. Even though you were transitioning from one thing to the other, so counting calories, intermittent fasting, it was shifting, but they all, you couldn't just be at peace with food and just eat to your hunger. You had to have a rule or a guide or something to do or something to follow or at least a structure. I think that's so common because that's just showing us that we think we can't trust ourselves at all. So we have to be doing something outside of us in order to feel safe enough that we're not going to go off the rails and let ourselves go and and eat forever and then die alone, like we're told that we will if we don't do anything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Desires. Of course you did. This girl gets it. Mm. Yes. Just repeat that. Repeat that for those in the back. Mm. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yes. How did you do that? So if someone's listening and they're like, "Oh my God, yes, I am in the same boat as you, Michelle. I'm so glad you're sharing your story." How do I trust my body when I don't trust her at all? What did you start to do? No. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So you approached it, what I'm hearing you say is you approached it with curiosity and gentleness. The way that you're speaking, it sounds like it wasn't something you were like, I have to do this or I need to know this. It's just, okay, let me just ask questions and get curious and see if I can connect. And I'm assuming you did and you could. Yeah. I think that's worth saying because especially if you didn't have that one-to-one support, for someone to keep reassuring you if you did dive in, when you dive, in my opinion, you're like, fuck, why did I do that? Oh my God, I want to go back. But when you've got someone being like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, this is so normal. So because you were doing it on your own, it's worth saying, everyone listening to this, Michelle listened to my content and took action. I'm not, this isn't to blame or call anyone out at all. It's to inspire people and to encourage them that everything you need is in the words I speak on my podcast. You'll have to listen to most of them and you'll see me grow from the start, from the moment I started my podcast. I've grown and evolved so much, but especially the last couple of years, if you do everything I share, you can fully recover, but you have to take the action and you took the action. So was there a point, Michelle, where so you started connecting to your body? I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you started connecting to your body. What happened next? And was there a point where you started questioning, like, oh no, this isn't right? Or like, when did the doubt creep in? Because I'm sure there was a lot of things that happened there. No. Yeah. 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 Do you regret that you actually take care of yourself now? Yeah. Yeah. How did you navigate that? Because that feeling, I remember it so well. It's like overwhelming feeling of shame and panic, as if it feels like you're literally in an actual dangerous situation, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yes. No. Mm. And did you, I assume so, because you've listened to my podcast, did you create space to feel the feeling? Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And you're not, that's exactly it. You don't need to give it a meaning. And I don't think that will happen again because you heal at the root. So, yeah, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have stuff that gets triggered that comes up from our past, and it may be around body image. And every time something comes up, it's an opportunity to heal that. But from my experience of working with so many and also my own experience, when you've worked through and felt that overwhelming feeling of shame around your body image, and you've allowed space for that, doesn't come back because you've healed that deep rooted like panic feeling by just being with yourself and not actually rejecting yourself, and like you said, bringing your prefrontal cortex back online and being like, is this actually a problem? Am I in danger right now? Or does it just feel like the end of the world? And then bringing everything you've learned to that situation and then choosing freedom anyway. Is that something you did? So, what did you do in that moment when you felt it? Did you tell yourself a new story? Did you say what I say, what would freedom do? What did you do after the feeling was felt? Yeah. Yeah, that's really key what you shared because I did that. You'll know from listening to my podcast. I allowed myself to go there because when you allow yourself to be like, okay, then let's quote unquote do something about this. What does that look like? Restricting, counting calories, denying yourself. Is that actually what you want? No, we've worked so hard to move away from that. Okay, so what's the options we have right now? Yes, and it passes. Yeah. What else have you gained as well as weight during this process? Yep. Yeah. Same. Yeah. Mm, mm. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, that's freedom. That's neutrality. That's peace. That's real. Because there will be times where you probably do like the way you look and you're like, hey, I look really cute today. I look hot today. And there will be times where you've just explained, like, and this is what I experienced too. Not a fan of what I look like today, like, especially for me having given birth recently, never gone on a sunbed since I've been pregnant. Like, I'm pale because I'm naturally pale and I'm embracing that. It's like, interesting. I have lots more cellulite than I ever realized I ever had. Interesting. And it's just, there's nothing, there's no panic, there's no shame, there's just would be nice if I had like slim brown tone legs again. I don't. Oh, let me get on with my life. Mm, yeah. Yes. Mm, freedom. Yes. Mm, yeah. How did you get there? I know that's such a big question because I personally know it's not always just one thing. It's like loads of little things on the journey as you grow. But for someone wanting what you have, what advice, tips, tricks, for lack of better words, would you say to someone who wants what you have, who was where you once were? Yeah. Yeah, maybe I can start you off because from what I'm hearing you say, this is big and this might be the only thing, which is huge. What I'm hearing you say is that example you gave where you felt that overwhelm of shame when you tried your pants on and they were too tight. You felt the emotion, you sat with it, and you said to yourself, it's okay, I can feel this emotion and then move on. Was it just doing that over and over again and then choosing to focus on something else? There's something you did probably without noticing you did it. You felt something, but then you must have done, if you had allowed yourself to go back to the same old thoughts, you wouldn't have progressed. Yeah. 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 Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That is gold because what I'm hearing you say is you faced your fears over and over again every day. When you faced your fears, you created evidence that you can face your fears, not die, not have a bad day, and actually be like, oh, actually, it's not as bad as I was thinking it would be, over and over again. Now, my question for you is, and this might be hard to answer, when you are faced with the fear, So you're stuck in this disordered eating. It's not what you want anymore. So I assume you decided with your full heart, I am going to get better. I'm going to be free. I'm going to just change this about myself, which I think is key. You need to decide you don't want to stay where you currently were, where you were before. And then how did you, I know, but people, this is a common question. How did you face your fears every day when facing your fears is scary and hard and you have no evidence that you'll be okay because you're facing your biggest fears head on? Mm. Mm. Yes. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, yes. So much good. That works because I don't know if it was pun intended or not, but feeding the part of you that is the true you, who is free, who wants to be living in freedom, versus starving the part of you that's keep wanting to keep you stuck. That's exactly how you recover, whatever way you go about it, because whatever we focus on, we get more of. Whatever we look for, we will find. We attract our beliefs, we attract what we believe about ourselves to back to ourselves. So if you're focusing on what you do want and ignoring or dismissing what you don't want, you will always get what you want. This works both ways though. So if people are saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, but focusing on what they don't want, they're going to get more of what they don't want. It's very simple, but not easy when you grasp that. Like when people come to me on a consultation call, I'm like, okay, I'm like, my favorite part of this call, tell me what you want to change through coaching. I don't want this. I don't want, I'm like, great. I listen with my whole heart. You've told me everything you don't want. Now tell me what you do want. And then I don't know what I want because they're so used to focusing on what they don't want and they get more of what they don't want. So also what I see within you, and I'm going to ask you to answer other than me pinpointing it out to you, if you could describe three characteristics that you have and have had to be in these characteristics in order to face the fear and flood yourself with positive recovery stuff, what characteristics would you have to, did you in, and what word am I looking for? What characteristics did you choose to be, for lack of a better way of saying it, in order to do what you did? Does that make sense, that question? Yes. When you were afraid, because you were afraid, obviously. Yeah, love that. Yes, I love that. And I think this is a question worth asking. I assume you have listened to lots of other recovery podcasts and read books and things. And that's okay. I'm not saying only people should only listen to me, but what I am curious about is when people are listening to recovery content and I'm contradicting what someone else is saying and vice versa, and people are like, well, what do I choose? And obviously, I'm going to be sharing my process is the only thing that fucking works because I've tried everything, but I don't want to make that person wrong either. What was your experience with perhaps listening to other things that were contradicting what I was saying? And then how did you choose what was right for you if you had that experience? Mhm. Mm. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Absolutely. No. Knows. Yes. Oh, yeah, you do. Yes. Yeah. Because it sounds irresponsible, doesn't it? I remember when I decided to, yeah, I was influenced by the coaches I hired. Obviously, that helped me get to this place and content I listened to. But when I truly decided that, you know what? Freedom doesn't come for free. I'm willing to trade freedom for having to work through body image stuff, having to work through weight gain. I'm just so done with trying to eat in moderation and trying to be healthy and eat intuitively, which was another diet to me. I was just fucking done. And so I needed to hear myself at the beginning of my recovery over and over again, you have full permission to eat unrestrictedly for the rest of your life. Because so many clinical professionals, sadly, they give that advice for only anorexia recovery at the beginning. And then when your rate restored, you have to bring it back and only have one slice of cheesecake. But what if you want 10 cheesecakes? You can't have that. So it perpetuates a cycle of restriction, especially if someone's like having binge eating disorder and they're like, yeah, that's not eating for freedom because you're obviously eating too much because you've got it's so wrong. So I always say the only way to freedom is to eat unrestrictedly and all the holistic stuff, tune into your body, come back home to self-love, do the child work. There's a quote that I wanted to bring in. Come on, Victoria Brain, bring it back. Oh, yeah, here it is. I always say that before diet culture was invented, intuitive eating was just simply called eating. Easy, simple, straightforward. And that's where the place that you've gotten to, Michelle. And honestly, I'm so grateful you reached out to share your story because it needed to be heard. And I'm so glad that you've shared it here. Is there anything that I've not asked you? And I'll have a think as I ask you this question. Is there anything else I want to ask you? Is there anything I've not asked you that you want to share? Mm, yeah. Oh, yes. When you said you didn't weigh yourself, I was like, yes, girl, you're listening to what's said. Yeah. Mm, yeah. No, get rid. Mm. I love that. And that goes against advice from clinical professionals who say time and time again, and people come to me saying this, and that's why they come to me. They say to these patients, they call them patients, you need to get used to weighing yourself because then you just need it to be a number. You need to let go of the emotional attachment to your weight. And my argument is give me one good reason why you have to know how much you weigh for the rest of your entire life, ever. Apart from if a doctor needs to give you a prescription on how much medication to take. You don't have to know the answer, the number anyway. There's no reason. Yeah, there's no other reason. Yeah, freedom. No, exactly. Is there anything else that I want to ask you, Michelle? What's one last thing you would say to someone who is contemplating deciding? Because I believe it always comes from a decision. When we say, I'm trying to recover, trying is asking for permission to fail. And I'm not saying that I'm saying it in a direct way, but in a incompassionate, uncompassionate, whichever word it is, incompassionate way, because we have learned helplessness. We've tried so many times and we've failed. So we're scared to do it for real because we're scared of failure again. But if someone's literally, okay, I want to do this, but I'm so scared, what would you say? Mm, yeah, yes. That was a big one for me. If I can't do it for me, I'll do it for the we. It was actually easier that way. And one last thing, so I know I can talk forever, but like with wearing shorts with my legs with cellulite on, God forbid I put anyone through the torment of seeing cellulite on my legs. I couldn't at the beginning do it for me, but I was like, you know what? If I can go out there with cellulite legs in shorts and a woman can see me and feel permission, feel like she has permission and more of relaxation to also do the same if her legs aren't cellulite, 80% of the women in the world aren't. That was easier for me because it took it all away from me, but I was inspiring other people, and that's what I think we're here to do, to just be an example, to learn from each other, to love each other, to give love, to receive love. And love is always the answer. Let's end it on that. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your story. And if people did want to reach out to you, can they? And if so, how? And if not, that's totally fine too. It's entirely, yeah. So if they have any questions, they can email me and I can maybe forward the questions on to you. So email me if you have any questions for Michelle. And listeners, you know how much I love you. YouTube, I'm people who aren't on YouTube, I'm doing a heart emoji thingy with my hands. Michelle, thank you so much again, and I'll see you all next week. Much love.